What do we do? How do we think about our war mentality? Given our political situation in this country, I've been remembering the confessing churches during World War II. These were churches who refused to be assimilated into the unified Christian church the Nazis were peddling. As I look at the world in which we're now living, I wonder how we are not just resistant, but also constructive. We must resist, yes. And Lord knows, and Elizabeth Warren knows, we must persist. But I think we must also hope. In many common tarot spreads, one of my favorite positions is the card of hopes and fears. Buddhists describe hopes and fears as the twin evils, as they keep us from the present. But tarot is a card game that comes out of the Middle Ages and is loosely based in Christianity. In the best of the Christian tradition, to hope is to live as if the kingdom of God has already arrived, to live wholeheartedly into a new reality. To fear is to turn away from hope and righteousness. It is to succumb to the demons of the day and age. The other day at the hearing on human relations or on the Human Relations Ordinance, we saw a lot of that fear. A young man who works at Bucknell stood up like one of the biblical prophets from the movies, if not from the days of yore, and thundered in one of those voices that to protect resources over the rights of people was flat out wrong. And although people didn't stop talking about their fears, after that, Kyle had given us a vision of what we were working toward. I believe that we work better and move toward the future more efficiently when we work for something rather than against. We are our best selves when taking steps, however small, toward hope. For the last 2 years, we have seen many people from this congregation out moving a new vision for our world forward. I'm grateful for and inspired by their work and proud they're part of our congregation. It is so easy to stay focused on what is wrong with our world. So many things are wrong, and I'm not suggesting that we shouldn't have at least a passing acquaintance with those things. We should know what's happening in our world. But I think it's important for our psyches to stand for rather than against these things. Apparently, our brains really don't understand no and not. So when we say no hate, we internalize, oh, hate's okay. It's time to do not necessarily more, but different. It's time to say love, peace, democracy. We want to say yes. Living life in community is about deliberately constructing ways to say yes. Dee and I quibble all the time because when we sing, what is it? Let us just say, what's the song? Say yes to life, just as long as I have breath. You know, and I always want to say yes with an exclamation point, which unfortunately sounds like a lot of extra S's. But I think we really have to consider saying yes. And there's a wonderful Broadway song that someone I know had sung at their ordination, and it's called "Say Yes," and it's huge, and it was sung by a woman with a huge voice, and to hear "Say Yes." This week, just in this little community, we watched people saying yes! Exclamation point. Sunday afternoon found many of you here saying yes to our congregation, and many others saying yes to our fifth principle and our country's democratic process. Hurrah for everyone's good work. It is incumbent upon us, I believe, to keep focused on what we have and what we believe and what we want. We have each other. Which makes me think about I did a memorial the other day and used the words from our hymnal, and I can't remember whose words they are now, but we need each other when it comes time to die, and we would have gentle hands prepare us. And I thought about Deb. But we have each other. We have a set of principles that don't really allow a lot of wiggle room. They lift us up, but they also set our feet on the road. Harking back to my last sermon of songs we can sing, I've thought about our hymn, "Oh, we believe in Christmas and we keep Christmas Day." There's so many things we could substitute in that song. We believe in democracy and we keep voting day. I was about to go off, but I stopped there because nothing else scanned. But you know me, I could have gone for days on that. But you get the picture. We are people who believe many good things, and it is our job to make those things manifest in this world. Because we believe in the worth and dignity of every person, we are called to be a haven and called to transform the world towards equality. In a world that's broken, we are asked to have the vision for something whole and beautiful. In this world, we are asked, I believe, to be the mortar that joins those building blocks. I've spoken once before about what it might mean to be spiritual kintsugi, the golden mortar that joins ancient shattered vessels together and reveals beauty of the function of that vessel. We could be the gold in the cracks of democracy and decency. We can be the gold-paneled room that welcomes refugees into a love they had only dreamed of, but a love that kept them moving forward, hopeful, on a road. A couple summers ago, Emily and I were in the room where the Nobel dinner is held. It is mosaicked in gold and glass. It is a fitting receptacle for knowledge and beauty and peace. There are times when beauty really matters, and we're so grateful to the quartet for offering us beauty today in the midst of something very hard to understand. Imagine a congregation, a community, a denomination with safe spaces for trans women and men so at risk in our world. November 20th of this month is a sad commemoration of the fact that trans women, and particularly trans women of color, are the most murdered group in our world, or our country at least. And in an awful irony, consider that we live in a country that is denying brown immigrants refuge or even recognition, even as a religious majority in this country celebrates the birth and desperate flight of their brown messiah. There are questions about whether many parts of that birth narrative are true, but the myth has huge imports. And as one Northwest Native tribe starts their stories, I don't know if this story is true, but I know that it happened this way. This caravan is an epic story. It's a saga of people walking toward hope. How do we help decide the conclusion to that story? I can't tell you if I think that being the gold is creating a place of welcome in this hostile country for people of the caravan moving north, or talking to like-minded churches and our neighbor to the north and seeing how we can support their welcoming that group, who for some reason believe that America, that this country, still holds hope for them. As Unitarian Universalists, we often shy away from phrases such as religious calling. We could spend days debating who calls us, what calls us, whether in fact there is calling. We are UUs. But I believe that moral imperative is a loud klaxon calling us to peace and all the justice, equality, and beauty contained therein. When we turn to the debate on words or on financing as we did the other night, we also often turn away from problems to be solved by people of righteous hearts and minds. There are thousands of children in tent cities separated from their parents. They are drugged, mishandled, and placed in care beyond their parents' ability to ever find them again. Is this not a concentration camp? Yesterday, the ACLU announced that they are fighting for the children in these camps, on this case, because ICE has repudiated any responsibility for protecting those children from sexual abuse by their guards. What happens in privately held prisons? Why would we ask people to bring their children here? It is heartbreaking to realize that so many things that we believed about our beloved country are no longer true. But it is irresponsible not to look at the fuller picture. And I think it is irresponsible not to believe that that hope is possible, that we could be that country that we have believed we were. And what about a free press? I've been lazy about renewing my daily items subscription. It ran out before I moved, and I've been postponing partially because I can't face any more packing materials in my house. I finally got them all out, but I need to read that newspaper. I need to subscribe to it. I need to have it come to my house, and I need to contribute to the good news, as do we all. If we're going to have a free press, part of the bedrock of our democracy, each and every one of us must support it in a time when it's threatened at the highest levels in our land. And we need to make good news together, golden news even. Let us patch this world together in love, and let us be proud of our scars. And I was happy to see the League of Women Voters guides outside all of the polling stations after they had been denied a place inside after so many years. I've said this before. I continue to believe it to be true. UUism is not the only answer to the evils of this world, but it is a good answer. It is a good beginning. It is an answer that calls us not only to justice, but also to wonder. I'm so grateful for the music today. We need more music. We need more of all the arts. Not only serious studying, but laughing companionship. Not only doing good, but doing well. Indeed, spiritual kintsugi may be no more than being like Micah. What is required of us? But that we do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly. No more than that, but that much is required. The other day I read a wonderful but painful article about a man with a homeless brother. He talked about all the things we need to do to fix poverty. He talked about all the ways that his brother was resistant to what's being bandied about, and in fact, many of the things that have proven to be not helpful at all at anything other than perpetuating poverty. He said that his brother supports Trump because he knows that Trump will never help him, and he at least tells the truth. And that others have always pretended that they want to help. No one wants to help, he said. The brother talked about how hard it was to know what to do to help his brother. He agreed that the systems that tried to help weren't helping very much, and only for short periods of time. Because if you get to this point and you're teetering, then so often you're cut off and you fall again. But he said the brother said he'd been watching his friends organize and participate in this election. He loved the sense of hope they brought to their work. He began to believe then, rather than looking at his brother and succumbing to the tired old, there but for the grace of God go I, and many of us can be in that place. He was starting to look at his friends who were working so hard and thinking, here, with the grace, come we. Maybe we can be the grace. We can't expect anyone else to do what we're unwilling to do. Maybe, Unitarian-like, we don't need to quibble about what grace is. Maybe we just need to be whatever grace we can be in the lives of people who could use a little bit of it. May we be the ones who come with grace.